I'm Olivia Clarke, editor of Chicago Lawyer Magazine and the Chicago Daily Law Bulletin, and we're here today with the Inside Out columnists, Tina Martini and David Susler, and today we're going to be talking about client service. Hi, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good. Okay, so to get to start, what's the biggest challenge when dealing with client service?
I think the biggest challenge is really figuring out exactly what the client wants. Sometimes it's an easy conversation to have. The client is very specific about wanting a particular project done. I think it gets a little bit more difficult, but it's also much more rewarding when it's a longer term sort of relationship, because then you get to work with the client in a bunch of different types of situations. I think the personality, though, as well as the softer sort of sides of relationships shouldn't be underestimated, are actually very important in terms of making sure that the relationship works. And part of that is working styles, understanding what the client means when they say certain things. And I think that a lot of times those sorts of things the importance of them are underestimated and actually can be even more important than the actual work product itself.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the unique situation that I'm a client when I'm working with outside counsel, and I'm the attorney providing client service. So I agree with Tina on the attorney providing. As the client, I think for me one of the most challenging aspects is if I'm not getting the level of client service that I want from my outside counsel, I have to deliver the bad news. And that's, it's an important conversation to have, but it's really not an easy thing to do, to raise that and say, hey, we have an issue here.
And so why do law firms care so much about it? Why is it something that they're constantly talking about and analyzing and looking for ways to improve it? Why is it so important to them?
Well, law firms want my business, and they know they have to give outstanding client service to get my business. So I would imagine that it's important to them to make sure that they provide top quality client service. And the way to do that would be to talk about it and stress it and emphasize it.
I think that there are a lot of very fine attorneys out in the marketplace, particularly with respect to substantive legal skills. And I really think that what distinguishes attorneys is the level of service. I mean, there are other points of differentiation as well, but because client service incorporates and encapsulates so many different ideas, there's the recognition, for example, let's just take, for example, being able to meet deadlines and being able to deliver the work product in a way that is client-friendly, however that client defines client-friendly. That sometimes is more important than the actual legal advice, because depending on who gets that information or that legal advice within a company or within an organization, there needs to be a recognition of how that information needs to be delivered, because sometimes the actual legal conclusion is worth very little if it's not packaged in the way that the client needs it. And that, to me, is a big component of client service.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of good lawyers out there, and client service, I agree completely. That's the real distinguishing factor. And there is no one-size-fits-all package for client service. You have to, the outside lawyers have to know who the client is, what they want. How do you deliver good client service, and what does that mean with the particular client in a given situation? So I would imagine, those who are more successful at it, practice it, focus on it, discuss it.
Well, how did you both learn how to be effective at client service? I mean, how do you learn those kind of skills?
I think a lot of it is really just becoming, as you get more sophisticated as your career progresses. You first start your career trying to learn how to be a lawyer, just the basics, and then you get more sophisticated in terms of the types of work you're doing, and then the natural progression is to manage, or to help manage at first, client relationships. And I think it's when you start having that sort of relationship with a client where you start getting the feedback, the good feedback as well as the not so good feedback. It helps train you, and watching masters in action. I mean, I think that is probably one of the biggest ways that I learned, was having the privilege to work with some really phenomenal attorneys, particularly folks who are not only great substantively, but who also have wonderful reputations for client service. Being able to be mentored by them has been a really extraordinary thing, and just developing your own style. Once you get really sort of an amalgam of different sorts of talents and people to emulate than developing your own style, which is something that comes with time.
Yeah, I would say pretty much the same thing. It's a lot of it, you have to grow and mature, and you watch people. You ask questions. Hopefully you find some mentors. You can see the styles that work and that don't work, and ultimately you learn to get comfortable in your own skin and be yourself. But I don't think there are many people who provide excellent client service right out of the box. It's something you grow with, you practice, you learn over the years.
Okay. Well, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching and for reading Chicago Lawyer Magazine. Next month, we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. Thank you.